Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this Hearthstone Mercenaries video, I'm going to take a look at treasures in bounties and what are the best treasures that you can pick. There's not a ton of agency regarding treasures in Hearthstone Mercenaries because you can't affect which character is going to be offered the treasure. You don't have a lot of ways to affect which treasures you're being offered because the only difference is between elite fights that offer somewhat better treasures and normal fights which offer somewhat worse treasures. But anyway, there's just very little you can do. So then there's just 3 treasures are being offered to you, and the only thing you have to do is decide which one of those 3 is the best. Generally, if you're running some kind of caster comp, like Nature or Holy or Fire, then the main treasure that you're after is the one that's going to give you stats, and it's going to give you bonus damage, like a Blessing of the Moon for Nature comp, for example. The next one is typically the one that casts spells whenever you cast spells of that spell school. So Nature's Bite, passive, whenever your character casts a nature ability, cast Serpent's Bite 3 at a random enemy. And sometimes a mixture of these two can also be very powerful. And if you fail to find either of those, then just purely getting stats. Because stats always help you survive. Stats, if there's enemies that are going to attack into you, having more attack means that they take more damage. So stats are always just useful. And stats are even more important if you're running a melee-based comp like Orcs. For Orcs, the best treasure would be the Warchief's Blessing. Passive, your Horde characters have a stat buff and they take less damage, so that's just phenomenal. Then there's 2 other stat buffs. There's like Banner of the Horde, passive your Horde characters have +5/+10, and the Orgrimmar Tabard start of game give your Orcs +3/+10. And the difference between these 2 is that the passive one is only active when the character that has that treasure is on the board, not when it's on the bench. Whereas start of game treasure just gives that passive buffs, and that is given at the start of the game even if that character is constantly on the bench, and it also lasts even if that character dies. So ideally, you will have these passive buffs on the characters that you're actually putting on the board, and you have these start of game buffs for characters that are on the bench, so that you will get the maximum buffs for those characters that are actually fighting. Beyond these damage buffs and stat buffs, there are some mercenary specific treasures that are extremely strong. Well, this is pretty much the list of those treasures. Brukan can get Tempest Fury, passive +3 nature damage after you cast Lightning Bolt repeated. So that means that your Lightning Bolt is ramping your nature damage faster. That's just a phenomenal treasure. And Zirala has access to Subjugation. Passive Blinding Luminance also affects the target's neighbors to take away all the attack from everyone pretty much. Some characters have access to Assassinate, and Assassinate 2 from Elite encounters, start of game destroy a random enemy. Yeah, that's pretty strong. Some of the Frost characters, like Localar, have access to Remorseless Winter, start of game, freeze all enemies. So in practice you're getting a free turn, and that's obviously super powerful. And then Cariel and Cornelius have access to Family Defense as an elite treasure. Passive, whenever Cariel or Cornelius is attacked, give them Divine Shield, and that can make your tanks very, very tanky. So there are a few of these super treasures for specific mercenaries, but they are actually quite few and far between, so typically you're just going for those damage and stat buffs. There are also some more situational treasures that can be offered to you for specific mercenaries anyway, like Monster's Heart. Passive set this mercenary's health to whatever it is, depending on the level of the Monster's Heart. It always takes 1 damage at a time. If you can combine that with a mercenary that can increase its health, then that can make a mercenary just totally unkillable, so a very powerful treasure. Then Giant Cleaving Skite, passive the smirk also damages characters next to whomever it attacks. Powerful if you have a mercenary that's going to do a lot of attacking. In particular, Samuro is a mercenary that really enjoys buffs for an individual mercenary. For most of the others, you generally want buffs for the whole party, but some of these characters that are really doing the bulk of your damage, like Samuro, can truly enjoy individual damage buffs. To the death, attack random enemies until this mercenary dies. This is most powerful when it's used with King Crush, and if you also have a King Mukla in the team, so Mukla can give Crush immune, and then once Crush is immune, Crush is going to do to the death, and then it's just going to kill everything. And also if you don't find anything stronger than Toughness, and there's some specific encounters where Toughness can be really useful. Passive, your characters take less damage. So when you're taking less damage, especially there are some encounters where there's like very small AoE that's repeated over and over again, and in those encounters especially, Toughness can be a big deal. But overall I would still be going for stats and damage mainly, but these are some of the options. And if you go into even more situational treasures, well, Drain Soul, this sort of start of game, steal something from the enemy effects. They're quite alright. They weaken the enemy a little bit, they strengthen your own character a little bit. It's not nearly as strong as the main treasures, but it's okay. Portable Ice Wall available to some of the first characters. Start of game summon a Portable Ice Wall with Taunt. Sometimes useful, although much of the time you want your tank to be taking the hits, because then it also hits back, which the Ice Wall doesn't do, so it's not universally great. Valanier, restore your characters to full health. With a cooldown, it's kind of okay, but also not one of the top tier treasures. There are some fights where that ability is really useful, but in most of the ones it's not. And same goes with Hunting Party. Passive your beasts have +6 attack whenever an enemy minion is summoned, destroy it. And what does it count as an enemy minion? For example, in the local R fight, the summoned orcs are not minions, they don't count. In some of the cases, Hunting Party can be strong, but these are getting really situational. And as you may have noticed, there are very few active abilities among these, like Valanier is one of the only ones. So for the most part, you want to pick up these passive effects so that you can use whatever strategy you're already using. You can use your mercenary comp to its fullest, because most of the active abilities, they lack synergies with your main comp, and they're just not strong enough alone, and they just don't do that much. So overall, picking treasures in the Mercenaries is quite easy, because there are only a few really strong individual treasures, and then it's just adding more stats, adding more damage, and that's how you build a strong party in Mercenaries. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and check out my Twitch channel.